You know I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in reality TV, entertainment, sports, entrepreneurship, combat, and so much more. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, I would say it's long overdue that we finally have our guest on here with us today.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we cannot say that this is the first time we've had a former America's favorite house guest on this show. However, we are still incredibly happy to have him, get to pick his brain a little bit on his individual Big Brother experience, what he thinks about the show now. We welcome Cameron Hardin to the show. Cam, nice of you to join us. Appreciate it. Love the living room backdrop. First and foremost, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. Thank you so much for having me. This is really cool. I love doing podcasts, and not only just podcasts, but anyone that is a fan of reality television and Big Brother specifically, I'll tune in. I have followed many, many people and just dropped roses on their lives and hung out and come into their lives. So I really thank you guys for reaching out to me to talk because all the stuff that you guys talk about is bomb. So I'm excited to be here. Thank y'all.
I appreciate it. So Cam joins the list, the illustrious list of all of our past reality stars, specifically a lot of Big Brother people on us with now. And Cam, this episode we're recording it now, but when it's out, we want to just give a little teaser to our audience out there. We have quite a few amazing race interviews coming up soon, because as you all know, it's going to be a Big Brother season of the Amazing Race. So that should be good. But Cam, we're talking to you right here, right now. You're always on social media. You're a big TikTok guy. You're on Instagram as well. But I'm curious, what's the first app you're checking on your phone every day?
Other than the alarm clock, is that a trick question? Right?
That's a good answer. That's a very good answer. It's an answer that we
No
don't
one's ever
usually
given
get.
that answer before.
No.
Yeah, so some of us got to wake up for a living. So yeah, the first app that I probably check is Facebook. I mean, that's where my hometown people are. That's where my family is. Birthdays, I want to make sure that I
Oh
give
yeah.
birthday shout outs and things like that. So then I eventually meander my way on over to Instagram and TikTok and the like.
Cool. So you're up and early, up and at 'em. That's the lifestyle you're at. But that's kind of where you've been at for a while. I mean, as a kid, a teenager, you're rodeoing, you're riding horses. So what was that like? That atmosphere like growing up for you, and how did that shape your future?
Growing up, if I tell people all the things that I've done and used to do, they'll go like, "There's no way you did all that stuff." But I mean, I did ride horses, I did rodeos, and I did all that stuff. But I also played every sport that I could. Yeah, and my dad was a high school football and baseball coach, and we had horses and stuff too. So we were not shy of work. I would wake up in the morning and make sure I let the horses out, clean the stalls, and make sure everything was good to go. They got water and stuff before I even took off to school. Then I'd go to school and I'd work out. My dad was also my weightlifting coach, so I couldn't skip any reps or any sprints. And so a typical day for me growing up is I did early morning video arts production. That made me fall in love with just entertainment. I was a humongous Saturday Night Live fan. Still am the biggest. I just love all of the ins and outs, especially on the 50th anniversary, and they're putting out all these behind the scenes cool stuff. I really recommend it. I'm a huge fan. But I did video arts, and I mean, I was in chess club and debate team and all this kind of stuff too. And I didn't like going to school, but I was extremely social. There wasn't a circle that I didn't run in. I fit in with everybody. I guess I was like tie dye. But yeah, outside of school though, it was about sports and it was about horses and working hard and music. I grew up loving music. I played guitar. I played in my worship band in church and all that kind of stuff too. So I love learning things. I love dabbling in new stuff that I've never done before, and I caught that itch at a very, very young age.
Yeah,
What
that's
type
love.
of, well, I
Oh,
was gonna
good.
say, type of environment you grew up in, right? Because you're a country guy, you're an outdoors type of guy. Nick and I, we're from New York City. We're from Staten Island. It's a very, very different place here, obviously different culture shock, right? So talk about, where you grew up, and then like I guess the Big Brother experience, you go
You're the
from
Southern guy,
Yeah,
obviously.
I grew up. So my dad was a football coach, like I said,
uh,
and so we've lived a few places. I was born in Georgia, but then we quickly moved away, and my dad was coaching at Ole Miss. He coached in the early '90s there at Ole Miss. So Pop is worth his salt. I mean, this is the brightest football mind that I've ever known and worked with. I used to work for him. He was my defensive coordinator when I got out of the army and I started coaching myself. So he's been a great boss and a great dad. But we moved there and then we went to LA and lived there for a little bit. My mom's family was there. We were shutting some stuff down, and then we moved to Texas, and that's when we entered the big arena of like 6A big time football, you know. And if you've ever seen the movie Friday Night Lights, it's just like that. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
I've
it is
also watched the
tense.
show. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's intense. It's an intense environment to grow up in because my dad had such a demanding job that, my dad, he didn't take no shit, like, and at that time too, if you're a sports fan and you know football well enough to understand the duality of the game. There's offensive minded people and there's defensive minded people, and you kind of make your living on that. And my dad is both, because when he was in Texas, he was an offensive coordinator, and his playbooks that I've seen are far and surpass anything that was going on in the 90s. It was insane just reading back on that kind of stuff. And my dad is such a humble guy that he would never tout his own abilities, but I will, because I've looked back on some of that stuff and I was like, holy crap, how did you not go further than you really wanted to go? And he said, I just really enjoyed being your dad and riding
Yeah.
horses. And I was like, well, that's the hell of an answer and make me feel like crap.
I
So
think maybe your father was probably just too far ahead of his time because not until the last 15 years here in football has there really been like a big shift in changing and schemes and stuff
yeah,
where they're more
definitely.
open-minded and everything
Definitely.
was just like, you know what, we're gonna run the ball and we're gonna play defense. Now it's a lot more complex and
Yeah, it's a
big
it's a
difference.
different world. You're exactly right. So we stayed in Texas for a while, and my dad was like, "You know what? I'm tired of all this. I'm just tired of the politics and the fast moving and the crazy crazy atmosphere we're living in." And we picked up and moved to Georgia in like 1998. And I don't know, I was probably 10 or so, and we moved back home. Back home where he's from, where all of our family is, and football took on a different world for me because where I had been seeing it on this humongous stage, now it's a little bit more small town. And that kind of goes back to where we're going with this and like where I'm from and what life is like for me, because we moved all around, and I have a lot of Texas in me, which is a lot of where my, love of horses and stuff comes from. And that kind you brought that and it correlated on over into Georgia, and we moved into a small town. And I moved from Wichita Falls, Texas, which was a pretty big area. I mean, it's pretty prominent. It's got an Air Force base there and like 4 or 5 high schools. It's a big deal. And to move from that to like Eastman, Georgia, with a couple of red lights and a Walmart, it was a culture shock to my sisters and my mom. And my dad was like, "Hey, we're home," and I was like, "This is pretty sweet," So yeah, I grew up in Eastman, which is the home of Stuckey's Candy Company. For those old heads out there, that used to be a pretty big deal in the truck stop. But Eastman coming home, it's a different slant on politics. Of the political of this education political landscape. That football is so wrapped up in. And my dad, having been a part of that, was I was always under a microscope as, one of the coach's kids. How's he doing in school? What's his discipline like? What church is he going to? Who's he talking to? How does he spend his time? Is he good at football? All these things. There's a lot of pressures that come with being a coach's kid. And it was just driven into my brain by osmosis that, everything that you do is a direct reflection of your family and your parents and your friends and everything. So Big Brother wasn't that big of a leap for me to understand that I was gonna be scrutinized on a large level, and that was no change for me. I was used to making sure that my ducks were in a row and I wasn't in trouble or embarrassing people. So that world of backhanded politics and stuff just kind of was normal talk at the dinner table for us after football practice. So the love of Big Brother came in that, because I was a part of the reality television explosion at the turn of the century. We had American Idol and Survivor, and Big Brother came in, all of that. And I just fell in love with Big Brother because I loved Survivor, because I loved outdoors and I love all that kind of stuff. I can build a fire like nobody. But I loved the mental aspect and the manipulation and the backstabbing and the thwarting others to get gained in a different direction. that just fascinated me on a different level. And Dr. Will blew my world apart on season 2, and I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I said, I'm going to be on that show one day. And everybody in my small town was like, what show? And if they weren't saying that, they were like, yeah, whatever, dude. No one makes it out of here. And I was like, oh, I'm serious. I'm going to do it. So Big Brother definitely took a hold of me at a very, very young age because of the political landscape and the mental fortitude it took to go through that kind of game. So that was the environment that I grew up in, and it just kind of correlated over and just made sense to me.
Yeah, so you never shied away from the bright lights, the camera, the action. You said you loved Saturday Night Live. Who was your favorite Saturday Night Live cast member?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's like asking which one of your kids you love more. But I grew up as a fan in the '90s of Saturday Night Live. Of course, I've gone back and blown open the whole repertoire, but I fell in love with Chris Farley. Chris Farley showed me that athleticism can can get laughs, and being just outlandish and fun and funny, but not being hurtful and not taking people for granted. He had a huge heart and he loved people, and that just lit my world on fire. And then the ushering in of the new cast to include Will Ferrell. Well, I just took that and ran with it. And by the time I got in college and Lonely Island took over with JT, good. I was done. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, favorite cast members are the '90s and 2000s group there. Just lit me up.
Very, very good. But as a serious discipline man, you mentioned it before, you joined the Army at 18. My question for you is, do you come from any type of background within your family on your mom's side or your dad's side that is of the military, right? How did that come about? And do you think your experience doing that kind of helped you at all while you were in the Big Brother house?
That's a great question. I get asked that every now and then, and it's an interesting answer because a lot of people in my family, basically all of the men in my family, either went into the military or they drove big trucks. I mean, that's just the world that I grew up in. And when you got out of the military, you went and drove trucks. So that's just how that worked out. But my grandpa was in the Navy during World War II. My uncle was in Vietnam. He got out of Vietnam and he was a drill sergeant in Oklahoma. And my dad didn't get drafted, but he was right at that cusp of where he could have gotten there, but he didn't. And he always tells me how proud of me that he is on the decisions that I made, because my dad never joined the military, but he is the most militarized man that I've ever encountered, because he's such a go-getter as a football coach, and he's so disciplined. And that was instilled in me at a very young age. I was far more ready for the Army than any of my friends that had family members in the Army, because I was driven hard every day. Workouts, sprints, film studies, football, going the extra mile, going as far as you can, getting one more rep than the next person, so that I wasn't accused of my father being or playing favoritism. Like I just had to give more than every person around me. And that mentality kind of takes on your personality, and it becomes a piece of who you are. So standing there and holding a button for 14 hours was not a hard task to me. So it just made sense. So I may not have had every person in my family that grew up in the military, but I was raised in a military environment by proxy. And both of my sisters married into Air Force. So I mean, we're just a military family, basically.
Gotta love it. All the support for you guys and girls. We can't do without you. So obviously you had that. You're away for a while in the army, and then you come back to real life. Probably not usually easily to adjust, but you had a big brother. Like that was always your thing before the army, and then after, and gives you some enjoyment, a little bit of a mental escape, I would assume. So, what were, other than your own, what's your favorite season of Big Brother?
That's a good question. Um, I love. Okay, so there's a few seasons that I love, and if I had to pick a favorite one, just for my own, I was completely engulfed in season 14. Dan's funeral, the whole nine. Ian won that one, and there's people that don't believe he should have won. I'm one of them. I love you, Ian, but we know. And Dan should have been the first two-time winner. And it was the most phenomenal season that I'd ever seen in my life, and that took a hold of me because Dan's a football coach, and he became one of my favorite players because I come from that world, that world where, he was also, Catholic, and he came up in a religious background, and he worked in a religious school system, and he was a football coach. So the worlds collided for me. And I was like, this is my guy. Like, I really follow this dude. And so season 10, of course, I loved him, and his gameplay from 10 to 14 was completely different. And I think that was one of the things that attracted me even more to the game, was recognizing that a guy could come on one season, win it with a strategy, come on, 4 years later with a completely different strategy, compromising himself, compromising his beliefs, and doing whatever it took to win this game. And you have to commend the absolute tenacity that it took to show the worst version of yourself to the world in order to compete for this thing that we all love. I mean, the dude gave everything that he had, and there's nothing more commendable to me. So I'd have to say that season 14 has to be my favorite season. Are my answers too long-winded? I don't want to take your time.
No, this is really, really good stuff. The
Oh,
only thing
good.
I will say is, as a Big Brother super fan, a lot of people make the argument that Dan should have been the first two-time winner. Second time around, his game was slightly more messy. I don't
Yeah,
know if there's a really, and I think
very, very pointed.
Ian played an incredibly clean game, and I think
Absolutely.
ultimately that was the difference in that particular vote at the time.
Yeah. Had
Who
I been in
was
the jury, I don't even know how I would have voted. That you say that, regardless of my feelings towards Dan and Ian together, between the two of them, if I were in that jury, even I don't know how I could have decided how to vote.
Dan's one of my favorite players. There's a treasure trove of players that we could talk about, but let's talk about the application process. So, did you kind of just do it on your own? Because usually people who have been on the show with us in the past, there's kind of like this little bit of egging on, with people within their circle, right? So, did you kind of just go about it by yourself, considering the fact that you were, previously acquainted and a huge fan of the show?
So I'd applied 5 or 6 times over the years. It wasn't just a one and done for me or a recruitment kind of deal. It was like a honing of the audition process to me. Just, if you don't get it, go again. If you don't get it again, go again. And I got that from Adam from one of the very early seasons. And he said, he said I applied like every season, sometimes multiple times a season. And he said what I learned in the process, it was how to apply and how to get it where I needed to be. He said I didn't change myself, but I knew what I wanted to go. And that spoke to me. And I've since talked to him multiple times. He just had a birthday a couple weeks ago, and I talked to him. And it resonated with me because I was like, yeah, well, duh. If you don't make it, don't take no. Just like keep going, and it made me understand what it was that they were looking for. Because each time I would get something a little bit different out of the deal, and it made me understand what it was that each casting producer, the people that are just watching video after video after video, it made me understand the type of thing that they were looking for: authenticity, raw, personality, charisma, not giving too much information, making like hooking them in and making them want to ask more questions to you, making them want the next video. And that made me understand the process a lot better. Had I not done it those 5 or 6 times, I don't think that I would have had an understanding of what to do better, and I wouldn't have got on. But another piece of it was I was coming out of the corporate world. I was ready to just do something different. I was just like depressed and down on myself. And I was like, what am I supposed to be doing? So I just, at that moment, for the first time since I was in high school, I decided to grow my hair out, grow my beard, and just, show who I was. I aged myself. I was just wearing polos and tucking in my shirt and showing up and standing in line and being where I'm supposed to be and doing what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, this is not working for me, dude. I don't think I'm supposed to be a duck that stays in a row. I got to figure out what I'm supposed to be. And that was the turning point for me that made me recognize I am a cool person. I like me. Y'all don't have to like me, but I'm gonna be this guy. And if all that Big Brother's looking for is authenticity in your personality, well shit, I got that. So it made me understand how to create a good video that was gonna be eye catching and to make them want to know more about me. And the audition process after that was I admittedly grueling because right in the middle of during of that audition process where I had kind of a timeline in my head of where this thing was going to go, we got hit by the writer strike and the actor strike. Oh, bam, bam, and that paused everything for a month because CBS was getting everything together for trying to format the television or the season to overlap some of the gaps in the writer strike. So, that's when they shifted it to a 100-day episode, 100-day season, and it really changed the format. And I know I've talked to other people, other house guests from that season, that it really threw us for a loop because we were like, did we make it? Did I not make it? What did they drop me? Am I not getting phone calls? And every now and then they would catch up with me like on the end of a week or something, but like, hey, stick in there. We're still processing this and doing that. And, they were trying to keep it all together. But inside I'm dying. I had just sold my house. I had backed up into another vehicle. I was like, I had quit my job to make sure that I could withstand all of this. And I was lining up people taking care of my finances and making sure that my daughter was going to be taken care of on all the fronts while my wife had to go military training or my ex-wife had to do military training. And so like I'm lining all of these things up and I'm jumping off the cliff. This is my only shot. And I gave everything that I had to it. And thank God that it worked out. But that was a scary, scary time because the audition process, not only was it backed up and lengthened, um, it in and of itself is extremely intimidating to just sit like this with a panel of like five people that
Yeah.
are picking you apart. Every single word that you say, every single giggle that you give after a sentence, or the way that your face moves whenever you don't like a question that was asked, or how well can you think on your feet. And luckily for me, you know pressure isn't that tough for me. I think I'm my most calm when everything has hit the fan, whenever you just have to toe the line and grin and bear it. I think that's when I have the ability to just kind of slow everything down. And I know that that comes from army training. I know it comes from football, and it comes from working with having patience, working with horses, and all that kind of stuff. But there's just something inside me that works a little bit better when the pressure's on. So whenever I had those Zoom calls, I was locked in, I was focused, and I gave everything that I got. Jesse Tannenbaum and a lot of the guys that are running up that stuff, they gave me some really good pointers. And one of the biggest pointers that they gave me was keep doing what you're doing. That was the biggest boost of confidence that I needed to understand. Be yourself, keep being you. He says, but there's a couple things. Don't be so long-winded here. Make sure that you point out this, and just a couple of tips. And each time I took every point that he gave me and I made sure to do that. And well, it worked out because it made it all the way. So but even when I was like in the hotel, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm just an alternate. There's no way I'm getting in that house. Like like until I walked in, that's when I knew.
Yeah, I know Joe's taking his notes. He's going to message Jesse later. But you finally get casted, right? So not much time to really react and process because, like, you're casted, we're going. So talk to us about that short time frame before you left. How tough was it saying goodbye to your daughter? I can only imagine how awful that would be. And then you get on the show. What's some of the things that surprised you about being on the show or even the house itself that you really didn't pick up on just watching as a fan?
So first off, yeah, leaving was, oh, gut wrenching. My daughter's just bawling her eyes out, and I know that she's gonna miss me. I'm even more torn because I'm like, there's an opportunity for me to come home week 1, week 2, but I don't want to. I want to make sure that I run this thing all the way through, which is also me telling myself that you're not going to see your daughter for a long time. And that was hard, very hard. I mean, they take your phone almost immediately when they get here to film your intro. And I just didn't have any contact with anybody. I got in the car with, my handler, and we set off to the airport, and then the rest was history. So, but the hardest thing about it, I don't know if you have this question on there, but the one thing that hit me so hard was the amount of time I had to spend in the hotel in sequester. I mean, I was there for like 11 days, 10 or 11 days. Some of
Insane.
us were there for like almost 2 weeks. I think Matt was there for a little, like 2 weeks. And when I say in a hotel, I don't mean just like you can meander on down to the lobby whenever you want to. You are in that one room. You cannot open the door. You cannot look outside. They got tape over the eye hole. You're there, and that is it. So that was the thing that hit me the most. I was like, can I get in this damn house? I am about to lose my mind. No TV, no radio, no nothing. I had Sudoku and Colleen Hoover books randomly. Like that was it. Word find puzzles and just staring out the window and just like, can we just do this? And your mind's getting the best of you, and you're like, do I got what it takes? Yes, you got what it takes, but don't go in too cocky. Don't do this. And you're going over all the things and the fundamentals that you want to make sure that you hit and the stuff you make sure you don't want to do. And it's just a minefield in your own brain by yourself in solitude. And that was the toughest thing that I had to do. So going into the house, I was overjoyed. I was like, holy crap, I am in television Disneyland. This is incredible. I like just overload. And I was like, oh my God, I'm looking around like, oh my God, that's how they do this. How did I get in here? I've been blindfolded and with headphones. Like I didn't know where the world we were, but I did because I knew where it was on Google Maps. So like that's the fan in me. But like going in the house was the fun part because I was like, people, I get to
Yeah.
talk to people. This is great. And I think that that's a piece of why they do what they do is because you're so starved for conversation and closeness to someone that you just soak it up immediately going into the house, and they get a big bulk of their footage immediately upon people going into the house. So yeah, those are the few of the things that just hit me the hardest.
All right, well, let's talk about some more fun things, right? Winning the pressure cooker, legendary competition. Uh, how was that?
He could still be standing there if he had to. He
All
was
right.
he was not going to stop.
No.
I could uh I could give you the humble answer, or I could give you my actual answer. The humble answer is it was hard. It was really tough. It was a really, really long night,
Yeah. Did
frozen
anybody
to death.
anybody pee their pants? Like how did that work?
We'll get there. We'll get there. But the actual answer is that was easy. I mean, stand there, hold a button.
Right.
Stay awake, keep your mind running, and make sure you're keeping your mind on your business. A lot of people give me a lot of credit for having survived that and won it, but in looking back, that was the most simple competition that I think I did. I stand there, so I can take pain, I can take deprivation, I can take all of those things. I was in combat, man. There were many times when we had to stay awake for 72 hours, and that loss of sleep and being able to control your mentality. Those are second nature when you've done it so many times. So going into a place like that called the pressure cooker, I was like, this is my kind of thing, dude. And I'm being a huge fan, and I was like, oh God, don't pull a caser, So I was like, I just got to make this all the way through. But you're right, I could have stood there for 2 weeks if I had to, because I knew that my life was on the line. Whoever won that HOH that wasn't me or Red was probably going to put me up, and that was the toughest part. Your next question was, did anyone pee their pants? The answer is no, they didn't pee their pants. They did pee though. I know Matt took a whiz, waited for the lights to go off as if that was going to be any better because we I didn't know that there were cameras on us and the people in that house were watching. I didn't know that there was a single camera feed that they were watching us through night vision. So everyone was like waiting for the lights to go out to be able to pee or something like that. And Matt was the first one to pull the trigger, pardon the pun. And then Jag went. He had to come out of his chicken suit a little bit to make it happen. And then we thought it was just going to go on down the line. I was prepared to whip out and turn it loose. So it came up to Corey, and Corey's like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, well, there goes the chain. So I guess I'm just going to hold it because peeing now would just not be cool. So I just kind of held it. I had to pee pretty bad, even at that moment. And I think I still had like 3 hours to go before I got out, or I think it was probably more. But yeah, there was definitely some interesting things that went on that night.
Wow. That must have been quite the flashback for you to the military days, but you
Yeah,
persevered
yeah, yeah.
there through. But like you said, your back was always against the wall in your season. You always had to win to stay off the block. Much like Keanu on this current season. So,
That's right.
how difficult was that for you to have to go through that every week? And, how is watching Keanu in this season kind of like brought you back to where you were at in the house?
The hardest part about being in the situation that I was in was that is not the game that I wanted to play at all. I didn't. That was not the strategy that I had cooked up. That was not how I wanted to play. But week two, week one, basically week one, I'm already ostracized from this side of the house, and I'm trying to get in with this other side of the house because I know I'm getting kicked out of the other side, and it's like it's crazy. And then so having to go back against the wall and just come out fighting, that was not the plan that I had. But once I had found myself in that position, it became nearly impossible to have actual game talk and strategy talk with the other house guests because anyone that was seen talking to me, it would ruin their game. So they didn't want to engage in any sort of game talk with me, even to the point that when it went up to the HOH and they came to talk to me, they didn't give me any information. They didn't give me any stuff until, later on. And it took time to kind of get a foothold and for any sort of relationship. So the hardest thing about that wasn't that I was just fighting for my life. It was that I didn't even have the ability to create game relationships with people because they were afraid to be seen talking to me. And I know that, I mean, I don't speak for everyone, of course. There's some that spoke on their own. But that was the feeling and that was the understanding. And it was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to move forward through this game if I don't have an ally, especially after mine left. I said, I don't really have anybody that's in my corner. Like it's just me. So I just begged, borrowed, and stealed as hard as I could just to get to where I had to go to make sure that I didn't get kicked out. I just wanted to make it to a certain point and keep going. And so Keanu hit that point to where it was like he was ostracized from a side of the house, but luckily for him, the landscape of Big Brother had shifted a little bit in the favor of competitive threats to where he could win himself off of the block. Thanks to Tucker for bringing on different aspects of the game. So it changed the dial and it gave him an opportunity to win himself off the block and still have the opportunity to vote. And that's a big deal because even when I was on the block, the opportunity of me coming off the block, people were like, we don't even care how you vote. Like, even if you do the right thing this week, you're leaving next week. That was the tone. You hear people talk about walking into a room and people go silent and you get that weird feeling and you're like, uh-oh. It wasn't even that way for me. They kept damn talking. If they were in the room talking about me and I walked in, they would just be like, "Oh, Cameron, how hope you're enjoying your last couple days." It was like it was that. So it was like that was even worse. I was like, "Oh, great." I mean, I can't even like talk. I can't even
Yeah.
like come in here and just be a normal person because I'm just the worst apparently. So Keanu felt that, but and to his favor though, he had the ability to win himself off, and still people had to come talk to him for their vote. That was a different landscape, and I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Had I had the opportunity to vote in certain situations, I believe that I would have gained a little bit of favor
Yeah.
with some of the
Well, how do you
relationships in
how
the
do you
house.
you mentioned it the BB arena, the A arena, now the blockbuster. I like to call it the Tucker turmoil because it's really here because of him. How do you feel about that twist on the game? Because I definitely think it has its pros, but the other con is it's drastically changed the game. I think it's here to stay though, but no more backdoor. That's really out the window. So how do you feel about that new twinkle here into the gameplay? Because I think it's here to stay now, 2 seasons in a
That
row
was
because of how good Tucker did in the last season.
this is a long conversation. I am a humongous fan of Big Brother, the television show and the game, which is two different things. If you're a big fan, you understand that reference. And I was all aboard. I was all aboard the blockbuster train. I was so proud and touting how amazing job that Big Brother production had done by formulating this new season to revolve a little bit more around competitions. But I thought it was great talking about Keanu and having the ability to vote because you still had a strategic portion of this game where if you did win yourself off of the block in a competition, you had the opportunity to you know, further your relationships with people. So it definitely gave a big twist. And I loved the fact that we were bringing on aspects from the challenge and from reindeer games and from traders and just bringing all these elements in. And I was on board and completely for it. And I was their biggest supporter. And then it hit a spot, a couple weeks ago where I was just like, I don't recognize this game. I don't understand it. Like, this is not the game that I grew up loving. It has shifted and changed, and it's become something different that I didn't understand. Do I love the idea of the blockbuster? Yeah. Do I think it should stick around and be all the way through the game? No. Do I think that we need to bring in these crazy twists of single game eliminations? Absolutely not. And my platform there is that this is not about Rachel. It's not. I'm friends with her outside of the house and I love her to death. But inside of that house, she's a completely different animal. She is fighting for her life. She is showing you the worst version of herself just to give you the entertainment, to make it all the way to possibly be the two-time winner. She knows. She knows that she appears as a bully. She knows that she takes people's words out of context and tries to put them in a corner, strategically. Like, that's just the game that she plays. So I love Rachel first and foremost, but this is the outcry that we're hearing from alumni and fans alike isn't because of our love for Rachel. It's because I believe that single instance completely shifted the focus of the game. Because as it sits right now, there's no need for real game talk. The house guests have understood that if I can be eliminated in a single game, I just have to make sure that I bring my A game to every competition. Even if I get on the block, I'll win a veto. If I don't win the veto, I'll win a blockbuster. If I don't win a blockbuster, then odds are in my favor, hopefully. It's completely shifted the game from this mentality of working people, working with them, working against them, pulling this one, pushing another one away to make sure that you can rope it in next week, relating a conversation to someone in a different manner to shine the spotlight in a different direction. All of these aspects of the game are now just diminishing because we have such focus on the competitive level of the game. And even the house guests are talking about it now. They're like, what game is this? Like, is this the challenge or is this reindeer games? Like, this isn't what I signed up for. And I'm understanding of it because it's not about Rachel and it's not about that. It's about the way that the game has shifted. And I know that we're trying to appease fans and we're trying to bring on more ratings and we're trying to get more viewership and we're trying to bring us some of the stuff off of the live feeds and force them to kind of watch it on TV. And there's all kind of different ways. And I would never ever speak ill of Big Brother production. I absolutely adore the team that works up there. Have they made missteps? Of course. Are they absolutely ruining the game? I don't think so. I think they're taking very calculated steps to try to figure out and navigate a path forward for a modern Big Brother. Did they hit the mark this time? Clearly not. I don't think that everyone is extremely accepting of the new format of Big Brother. Will they take the fans' disgust for this and go back to a retro? I don't know. Will they continue it forward just out of spite? I don't know. Will management change and the complete game itself be completely different next season? I don't know, but I'm here for it. I don't care who it is. I will always be a Big Brother fan, no matter what. So the landscape of the game has changed. I was a huge fan of it until it hit a certain spot where I recognized I don't know this game anymore. So, I struggle with that on a daily basis.
Yeah, so obviously in Rachel's exit interview, her and Julie made sure to say, hey, but expect the unexpected. It's Big Brother. With Rachel, I mean, I think if she had 6.5 minutes, she wasn't finishing that maze puzzle. But that was again, maybe you could say it's strategy wise. She should have said, I don't want to go in. Don't give it to me, Morgan. Let's let Ashley go, and then maybe we could, toss it to Kelly or whatever. So it's something to think about where the game is at. Every year, of course, we have to have this twist now, with the extra character running the game. Last year with Tinsley, obviously this year. So we'll see what happens there. But Joe, 3 seasons in a row now, we have Cameron, we got Tucker, we got Keanu. where they, for some reason, I guess editing helps with this in this sense, but their backs, they're against the wall, like week two, week three, right away, and it's giving, it gave Cam, it gave Tucker, and it's giving Keanu a lot more screen time, a lot more diary room. And what happened? So the previous two that I mentioned, as far as America loving them, so maybe Keanu's got some money coming his way.
I mean, it's a movie script as old as film itself. Who doesn't love the underdog?
Yeah,
When your back's against the wall and there's absolutely no way out, and you figure out a way out of it. That's you have to put into relation. Yes, this is an extremely strategic game, and you can pick apart people's game strategies and the decisions that they make. You can even pick apart their personality tropes and make fun of them on national television. But at the end of the day, Big Brother itself is a television show.
yeah,
That's where it's at. I mean,
absolutely.
they write, they create these storylines. The people within the house itself, you write your own storyline. You get to present yourself the way that you want to present yourself to the world. And Big Brother just fields a cast of people that can navigate their own storyline. They give you the opportunities and the abilities to show America who you are and who you want to be seen as. And they have the ability to, quote unquote, write these storylines for these people. I mean, you're saying your own words in the diary room and you're showing your own self there, but it's captivating television. It brings people in. It makes you watch the show. And that's in essence to me what America's favorite player is. It doesn't say that you're the best player in the house. That's not what it says. It just says that you're a favorite of people that just loved the television show. They loved watching you on the show. They loved your journey. They loved who you were, things like that. So it's a completely separate honor, but one that should be held in high regard.
Were you surprised at all that you won? Because judging based on this interview and the stuff that I've seen, from you previously, it seems like you had a working idea of you were not on the right side of the house at the very beginning, and you kept being attacked, and you won competitions very early on in your season. I think the perception of you was a little bit different than it was as the show moved on. As the show moved on, it was controlled by a certain cast of characters in your season, including Suri, who's another fan favorite, obviously from her days in Survivor. But did it surprise you at all that, your competition prowess, the underdog mentality, that relentless resolve, right, that you get from being, a military person and your military background and bouncing around and being in all these different places when you were younger? Were you surprised at all that America actually really took to that, as the game went on and you kind of fought for your life a little bit and you got back in there? And what do you think about America's favorite player this go around? Because as Nick was mentioning with Keanu, I think Keanu at the very beginning, a lot of people weren't necessarily taking to him as the game goes on, as he's had to fight for himself every week. And he's kind of a solo dolo at the moment. So I think America really loves that. But in regard to what happened to Rachel, she's an iconic player. And I think a lot of people are going to be up in arms about her, regarding how she was eliminated. And maybe they'll cast their vote, right, as a, Big Brother don't meddle in production. You had something good here and you kind of let it go, right? So were you surprised at all? And what do you think about America's favorite player this go around?
If you couldn't tell from my facial reaction, yeah, I was pretty shocked. I didn't
Look
expect
shocked
to
on the sh
be
stage. Who'd
We
you
were
think
I
was
didn't
gonna
shocked.
win?
expect to be, the
Honestly,
most.
honestly, we were shocked too. When you won, I was like, wow, that was
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
right,
But
right.
but I mean again, your story was good. And as you went on, I think you won over a lot of people who you didn't have in the first couple weeks you were in the game.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I didn't show myself too much in the first portion of the game, so I didn't have the opportunity to do so. But you're right when it comes to the sense that the more that you win, the more camera time that you get, the more time you're in the DR, the more people are focused on going after you, and you're the topic of a lot of conversations. So the being ostracized and being on the other side of everything, it works itself. If you really dislike something, you'd better not talk about it because it's going to come around all the time. If you don't like Angela, well, the more that you say it online, the more that you're going to see her face. That's how it works. So people just haven't seemed to haven't gotten that driven through their brains enough. that the more hate and the more press that you give somebody, the more platform you're giving them yourself. So I think that with all of the Cam hatred inside of the house, it helped me. Was I shocked? Absolutely, because I didn't think of myself of winning anything like that. I was just focused on surviving and staying as long as I could and soaking up the opportunity of being on my favorite TV show of all time. That's all. I was just so excited that I got to run. I got to run the whole gamut. I got to make it all the way to the jury house and be able to tell tales from inside something where there's no cameras and show the give behind the scenes. That I it was just it was a dream come true to me. So that was all that I was really focused on. I knew that I had a shot of people liking me. I was just hoping to God that the whole world didn't hate me and want to run me out on rails. So my shock was real. I couldn't actually believe that. So the other portion in that is, you know Keanu is in a similar form, in the sense that he didn't get the most love at the beginning of the game, and I actually picked him to win very early on. He was in one of my draft picks. So
You know what? Keanu really won me over when he was like, I believe he owed me a prompt because like I don't think he was being nasty at all there. He
no,
was like
no, I did not love
No,
it
not
either.
at
he
all.
was feeling so disrespected. No one's not a
I've been
peep.
there, and I
Eve
remember
is looking at
thinking
him
when
and
I
she
saw that,
she
I was
flips
like,
out on
man, I know
him
what it's like to win
and
something
she
and
made him
people.
even more likable.
Yeah, I remember what it's like to have won something and everyone just sits on their asses. Like I knew, like I knew what he was feeling at that time. He's like, that if you're a competitor, you're juiced up. Like you just won a competition. You're like, yes, and like everyone else is like,
Mm,
that like sucks the air out of the whole thing. And you're like, hey, dude, I'm crunk. Y'all might not be crunk, but I'm pretty proud of me. That's a whole different ball game. So in the landscape of who could win America's favorite player, that's a tough conversation because weeks back, I said it's going to be Rachel, Keanu, and probably Will. Those were my top
Mm.
three for America's favorites, finalists, and I think that we're still on par there.
yeah,
So, yeah, will all of the Rachel stands unite? I don't know
that's what I think.
because if you are a Rachel fan, I mean, it's just like TikTok algorithms, right? If you're a Rachel fan, you're going to see a lot of information of other TikTok, Rachel
Right.
lovers, and that's the world you get to see. But you
You
don't
don't see the
recognize
full
that
picture.
if you zoom in on some of my comments on my videos, it's like split in half. You either absolutely hate her, or you absolutely love her. There's no in between, so the stands right now might be split. And if you're a split on a vote, that's going to be a tough go. And she hasn't won America's favorite player
Yeah.
ever. So I
Wait,
think
wait.
that more fans are going to unite on the Keanu side of this,
Mhm.
trying to attempt to give a guy a little bit more recognition over someone that's already been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the,
Yeah,
the
and you
key.
mentioned Will, extremely likable,
Yeah.
ended up being the reason he got evicted,
Yeah.
which was a little confusing because your season, everyone dragged Felicia to the end because they knew she probably wasn't going to win anything, and at the end, you can get rid of her. Will was probably not going to win anything, so I think
Yeah.
it was a big mistake for them to get him out now because Ashley won a blockbuster or whatever, but she's a little more in the game. So how'd
Yeah.
you feel about that? I thought Vince has been voting really weird all season, but I thought Vince probably should have kept Will because he said, "Oh, Will, if you were sitting next to me at the end, you would have beat me." But I don't think I think they could have got you could have got rid of Will if you wanted to, like when it was the final four. So now you
Well,
have more threats in there.
not to get too in the weeds of the X's and the O's, but I think Vince is making calculated decisions. Do I believe that it was a good call to get rid of Will? No. That's just me though, because I want to be able to beat this dude down the road, and I know that I can. That's
Exactly.
that's easy
Right.
pickings. Not
Exactly.
no shade to Will. Absolutely adore him, and he's a veteran. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
But
sir.
but getting rid of him didn't make sense to me, but it made sense to Vince
Yeah.
because he now has busted up the other couple. I mean, there was an Ashley Will, there was an Ava Will, right? So now he got to ostracize those people and now take advantage of those. So Ashley may be a little bit more of a competitive threat towards Will, but now we're getting down to the short rows when it comes to the game. And I believe that Vince is anticipating a little bit less competition and a little bit more analytical thought. And I believe that he thinks that he can play Ashley and play Ava a little bit better than he could have persuaded Will, because Will was set in his ways You could saw it clear as day. He just tune out of most of those conversations because he's like, I'm not changing my like whatever. I'm not. I'm just doing what I'm doing. I don't care. And I think Vince was tuned into that. So I think that he made his vote because he recognized that he has an opportunity to play these people against one another. Maybe play Ashley versus Ava and strike a deal with one of the two of them. And I think that he's kind of got the strategic mind
Yeah.
working at the end towards the end of the game.
Well, if you look at who's left here, you would think looks like a female's going to win, just based on who's left. But like Vince is playing very strategic, but it could blow up in his face. But he's been right on the edge a lot this season. So who
Right.
knows? And like
Not
Morgan
to give
said,
any
eventually,
spoilers, but
yeah,
aside from Lauren's win in the hamster wheel, there have been three male victories back to back to back.
yep,
So the landscape of the game is now going to be very
all
intense.
about comps, yeah. And
Yeah, it's going to be very
Lauren, I mean,
intense.
Keanu called it, but like Lauren, two of the worst HOHs.
Yeah.
Maybe of all time, but
In
definitely of the
in
season.
in her defense, and I think Lauren's great, but in defense of all HOHs this season,
Yeah.
they are over
Yep.
over in getting their target out.
And
Not
Yeah.
one
Jimmy
person.
Not one
Jimmy
person.
was all time right. Five people he put up, and it was a total
That's
dud.
it. Not one person got out their intended target for that week of HOH, which is crazy to think about. But honestly, with the landscape of the new the blockbuster, it's changed the
Too
game.
difficult.
And
Yeah.
none of the people that are in that house were prepared for a type of strategy to thwart chaos. They didn't understand a way to play the house in casino terms. They didn't understand a way to stack the chips in their favor. Ava was the closest possible person that, ironically, that
Yeah.
came to actually having a successful HOH
She was like,
because
"Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk." That was
when
perfect.
she wanted Vince gone that week, and he was on that block on the elimination on eviction night. He was the closest person to being the actual target to go home. So kudos to Ava on almost accidentally making it happen. But yeah, to give Lauren some credit, she didn't get her intended target out, and now she's got a little bit of trouble.
Oh yeah.
Now, not only has Keanu figured out a way to work the Morgan versus Lauren angle, you know, not spoiler, with Vince coming into HOH and Morgan being safe, now his options are getting a little bit more limited. He's going to have to draw some lines somewhere, and he's going to either really piss off Morgan or he's going to have to upset Lauren for a little bit. And he's going to have to make that decision right now. And I think that he is probably dying inside.
Oh,
I have to interject. Vincent Morgan,
Hmm.
as a Big Brother super fan, right?
show
And
man.
I've known this since all these years back, right, Cam?
Yeah.
In the old days, we would get a segment on Thursday, and Julie would be like, "Let's see what Vince's girlfriend thinks of this," and you would do the whole location thing, right? And we would get the whole interview, and we're not really getting that, and we could debate what certain boundaries have been crossed
Well,
or not crossed.
Zingbot acknowledged it.
Zingbot is going to be, we're getting Zingbot as of this recording. We're getting Zingbot this upcoming week. So Zingbot is going to have some lovely things to say about that. What do we think about this in particular? Because it's very clear that Vince's game is I need to toe the middle between Morgan and Lauren, and I need to figure out a way to bring both of these girls with me to the
Final
very
three.
end, to the final three, right?
Right. What aspect? Do you mean what do I think of that relationship or what do I think about Big Brother's coverage of it?
Well, we could do both
Okay, I'll do
because
both. First off, what do I
Just she's
think
just
about their
waking him up.
relationship?
Wake up, Vince. Wake up.
Yeah. What so there's a couple of things that we can think about it. And it's a tough sell
Ah,
to say it's not our business because we're watching it. It is our business.
it's always our
But
business.
right, but these are grown adult people doing what they want to do. Can you chastise them and break apart their entire lives because it's just fun to watch the world burn? Okay,
yeah.
if you want to do that. But the point there is that no one that is throwing daggers right now understands the position that Morgan and Vince are in that game. Now, Jimmy came out and he spoke on the fact that Vince and his girlfriend of 7 years were probably on the exits anyways. And is that an excuse to give him, the ability to do these things on live television? Absolutely not. Do I believe that he just threw caution to the wind and he just got to a point and he said, you know what, I actually do like this girl, and I'll handle the girlfriend situation when I get home? Is it a good call still? Absolutely not. But I'm trying to understand his justification for just going with it. And
Yeah.
Morgan, for that aspect, I believe that that is where her head is at too. I believe that she understands that he and his girlfriend were on the outs. Is she trying her best to be respectful of it? Yes. Do I think that she's doing some of those things to thwart the attention that she's probably going to get? Yeah. Did Zingbot come in and hit her with a good one? Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it
I
is
can't wait.
definitely on her mind, and it has now gotten to a point where she's starting to crash a little bit. And I think that it's starting to sink in to not only her, but to Kelly and Vince and everyone else around in that game right now. Everything is getting talked about. Some of it
Hmm.
is going to be talked about from the wrong angle. Some of it's going to
Right.
be wrong disinformation. Some of it's
Yeah.
going to be hearsay and word of
Well,
mouth.
listen, the showmance, or whatever you want to call this, it rarely ever leads to somebody winning. I mean, in your season, right, we have two showmances. Uh, you know, we can make the argument Corey would have been better if he wasn't tied to America, but they did give us like maybe like the all-time scene of them in the shower. I know
Yeah,
me and Joe were like I can't believe they're showing this on CBS. So that was crazy. But so the showmance,
you'd be
it's
shocked at what they didn't show, bud.
no, I could believe it just based on
Hey,
them showing that. But so to for Joe's point here, like Vince's ideal scenario is final three with Lauren and Morgan. He's probably gonna maybe try not to win, so then they pull him to the final two. But I think Vince has made a lot of enemies so far. I think it'd be really tough for him unless he's the one taking out Keanu. I think it's gonna be really tough for him to actually get the votes to win over uh, anybody really at this point.
well, Vinny the Lip. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
used car salesman.
Vinny
So when
Lip.
it comes, you can bet your ass that he has his finale speech planned.
yeah. Unlike Matt in your
He-
season, who wasn't
oh my
ready
God,
to
what a
talk, our
fumble!
buddy Matt.
What a fumble! But yes, I think that he
Yeah,
he understands his position and he is prepared to speak on his
yeah.
own
Well, Cam,
resume to
real quick
include the relationship with
on Matt
Morgan that
though,
he's.
like because you voted with Matt for Matt and Jack. If Matt got up and just said the only reason he's here is because I brought him back in the game and saved him, would that have made you like change your jury's opinion to just say, oh, well,
No,
that's good? No, you think no matter what, Jag was going to win?
yeah, because Jag came in and completely revamped his own game.
Okay.
Him coming
So
back
nothing
in
Matt could have
is
said could have
what made
changed
him win.
anything.
No, I mean, I looked at it from every single aspect. I tried to give
Okay.
credit where credit was
Yeah.
due. I tried to look at Bowie Jane's, situation, recognizing the type of game that she played. I mean, I'm a super fan. I looked at it from
Yeah.
every angle that I could,
Interesting.
and the only person that had complete control over their game was Jag, and it showed during the speeches because the only rebuttals that Matt had was basically, I did my best with what I was given. And Jag was like, yeah, I damn gave it to you. Like he was the one that was running that show. And it was always, anytime that I spoke and it was the three of us, Matt was the yes man and Jag was the plan man. So that resonated with me. And I made sure that everyone in the jury knew my thoughts on it. I wasn't trying to persuade them, but I was
Yeah.
just basically giving them the information. Here's exactly
Yeah.
what I was told, and here's how I was told it, and here's
So
how you were
yeah.
going to get taken out. It was
But
all in order.
we don't really see much of you guys in the jury house. I think we should have a live feed of the jury house. But
No,
what kind of discussions are you guys going through towards the end there? Are some people pleading their cases, or some people just like I'm gonna just go with however I feel that night, or is it kind of you think there's more of like a consensus for you guys going into that finale night as to where the votes are gonna lie?
funny enough, you say that there should be cameras in the jury house because every bit of game talk that you saw was on camera. We don't really talk in the jury house about who we're going to vote for and how. We really just talk about things that we were accosted by in the house, who we felt that was in a weird relationship. Now that we're out of the house, what kind of job do you actually have? Who are you actually? Things like
Mm.
that. And we talk about people's kids and things that we didn't have the opportunity to talk about. We knew we were on live feeds. So the jury house is that cooling down period. And we were thankful that there were no cameras in there because we had the opportunity to literally unwind, get to know one another, be ourselves, and just transition into the crazy world that we were about to go into. So by the time it came up on finale, everything that you saw in the jury roundtable, and whenever someone would come in and show you the video of what happened, we did a lot of game talk then, of course, because we knew we were on camera, and they wanted us to save game talk for the camera. So we talked in front of the TV, and then we talked to the jury roundtable, and we immediately left the jury roundtable and went, to our hotels. We went straight back to sequester for a night or two. So everything that you saw us talking about is all the talking that we really did. Because outside of that, it was just me and Blue reading books and watching Netflix and cooking and just hanging out in the hot tub and shooting pool. It was just like just a hangout. We were like, can we go home now,
Yeah.
please? We'd been there forever. You know what I mean? So by the time it got out, we were just like, I don't give a shit who wins. Can we go home?
So for you, you go home, and like 2 weeks later, you're back.
Yeah.
Reindeer games, right? So what was that like? You can't even adjust to being back home. You basically home, and then it wasn't. I know you
Oh,
weren't there long, but I mean, you seem very stressed on the show because you're just going through this. You're having some flashbacks to a few months ago. But reindeer games, I thought it was a really cool show. I'd love to see it come back
I
again. I don't
love
know
the
why they didn't have it
absolutely love the
last year. I
concept.
love
You
the
can't.
I
format,
did.
the
Yeah.
concept. You guys didn't stay there though, which I thought was strange. You left every day, but talk to us about that experience of doing reindeer games.
Oh, reindeer games. Okay, so you're right. It was a very pressure packed little couple weeks right there. We just had Thanksgiving. I had just gotten home. I'm still looking at everything on my phone. I'm watching my season or trying to, and I'm trying to put things together and seeing the good things that people are saying about me, seeing the awful things that people are saying about me, recognizing that some family members said some things, did some things, and friends, and it was just
Yeah.
a wave of emotions every single day, and that is the thing that just was weighing on me, and going right back into that house with legends was nerve wracking. That was the first time that I ever actually felt nervous because I think that I had been acutely aware of being on TV. Now it's like now I know how big this thing can get, how fast and how strongly people can feel just about a person just for being a person. So the weight of that was what was hitting me, and the people that were in that house with me, they had already experienced that. They had already gone on their next show. They'd already gone on to come to grips with social media and the way that things are shown, and people just disliking it. I was still going through those emotions. So my first time going into the reindeer games was Brittany said it right. Like I still had that 1,000 yard stare, man, because I was like, what am I doing back in here? I don't stand a chance in hell. I'm just going to do my best and give it my best in these competitions. And I knew going in. I've even talked to production on my way in. I was like, I'm gonna be the first one out, and they were like, well, don't do that. And I said, no, I'm not gonna try, but I'm saying like I'm pretty sure that coming in being the brand new guy, I'm going to be target number one, and that's it. There's no social game that I can possibly play to keep me out of being in trouble very early. And they were like, "Well, do your best." And so I did. And so the coolest part about being on reindeer games wasn't even being on the show at all. Like I don't care that I got last place and left on the first day. The coolest part about it was literally just being there and getting to know those people and becoming friends with them, and talking game, and them giving me advice on how to handle certain things. I made some really lifelong friends just on that short experience. I was there for about 2 weeks, and just on that short time frame, man, I made some really, really amazing friends that I've gone on to hang out with outside the house too. So it was that was the coolest thing about that, was getting to see these people that I had watched my whole
I
life,
know. A lot of
getting to
all
see these people
stars.
that I love, just to hang out with, drink a beer with, go down, just take a walk, go to a restaurant and eat together, and go to parties together. That was the biggest thing that I could possibly take away, aside from whatever success that the show had or didn't have. I just loved being in that arena with those people. It was really cool.
Yeah. Do you think the show should come back? I mean, we
Oh
don't
yeah, I
control
think
the
an
ratings, but
aspect of the show should come back. Should it be the Christmas seasonal? No, but should there be like a particular competition that's based on
well,
that?
we got it with
Yeah,
Rachel at the
yeah.
Lego
Should it be
games.
Right.
based on? Should it be run by Big Brother? I don't know. Another network could take on that concept. I mean, it's basically the challenge with funny outfits. So it's anybody can kind of do that, and it's kind of crazy. So I think that that has a potential to having to come back, but I think that it was a means to an end at the time, coming off writer's
Writer
strike
strike.
and
They
the
needed to fill
need,
some
yeah,
airtime, right?
the need for
Yeah.
reality television, which kept the lights turned on at a lot of broadcasting syndicates.
Well, let's talk about things that Big Brother can control. Another All-Star season. And obviously, if we're creating a list here of some of the house guests over the past 4 or 5 years in particular, you probably make the short list uh, of people who I think that they would kind of consider and ask to come back. Would you do an All-Star season? In the event that they have it here within the next couple of years, I don't think they're going to nearly wait nearly as long to have it the next go around as they did between the first two All-Star seasons. So, who do you think should have the opportunity from the more recent seasons to come back and compete in an All-Star season? And would you do it?
First off, I would absolutely do it.
Of course, you would.
I mean, what an honor. It's not even that I would do it just because of the show. Just what an honor to be asked to come back to my favorite TV show, and knowing that people like me at least enough to give me a shot to be on their TV again. That would be the biggest honor. So would I do it? Absolutely. Do I think that they should do it? 100%. I think that honestly, the way that this season shaped out, and the way that people are upset and the way that people love certain aspects of it, I believe it is going to come a lot sooner than we think, because I think that we're going to need to rope back in these fans and bring back the essence of Big Brother. So the question that you asked was who would be on it, and I think that we have plenty of ideas, and I know that we would agree on a lot of these. But with that in mind, I believe that a season of All Star Big Brother, if we were to bring it back now, it should have a retro feel. It should have a season 10 rule book. We shouldn't have the blockbusters and all the crazy twists and bringing on, family members and, you know, pre-existing alliances already formed, like this whole deal that Big Brother just gets too big sometimes. And I want to minimize all of that and just shine the light on what the game used to be. Bring the people back in. Bring them back in for the things that we really loved. The dumb competitions, not always athletic. People talk about equitable competitions. So with that in mind, bringing back a different set of rules and a different understanding of how the game should be played, we would bring in people that you wouldn't necessarily think should have a shot, because off the top of your head you're thinking of the best competitors, because we're in a blockbuster landscape. Who would be the most advantageous to win the blockbuster on Thursday night and bring the biggest ratings. So I think that if we take a shift away from that and take it back to the fundamentals of the game, we would have a different idea of who we think we should be on the show. So there's a lot of amazing characters over the last 5 seasons, to include 27, that I believe they could field an entire all-star cast right now, just off of the seasons after season 22 all-star. You got 23, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's 5 solid years of amazing gameplay that we saw, and we have these people still fresh on our minds. For the love of God, the cookout needs to be on TV again. Maybe not the whole cast. I understand that you wouldn't necessarily bring 6 from one season, but the idea that they would bring to a game, that thought process of just extreme loyalty and running an alliance all the way through to the end. I want to see that. I want to see that again. I want to play with it. I want to tweak it and run with it. I want to see those things, and to bring on, guys like Tucker, who are going to be an absolute nuisance trying to get him out. Someone else from previous seasons, bringing on some of the other OGs just to round out that. And I honestly think that it will be a really cool call to bridge that gap. I don't think that he would go in with any sort of big advantages, but to bring on Boston Rob in the middle, since we like all of these 17th house guest kind of things, to bring some more CBS, family back into this bad boy, because Boston Rob is another, prolific character. You either absolutely love him or you absolutely hate him. So bringing that back on would bring on a different twist, because he would be in there playing with people that have done this before. He would be in our arena. It would be a different set, and I think that having that and having an early all-star game could be a resurgence of the game.
Yeah, I know we'd love to see it. So many iconic characters over the past few years. Angela included. She brought a
Yeah,
lot to TV, so I loved Angela. And the
absolutely.
fact that we got Angela and Tucker together in one season, we don't realize how lucky we are as viewers
Yeah,
because by themselves they can carry a season.
it was a
So
lot. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, so I can only imagine. I mean, we talked to some people on that cast, but living in the house with both of them,
Yep.
Joseph Rodriguez is like it's like walking on eggshells every day, and he's like I was
Yeah.
aligned with Tucker, and I still didn't know. So
Right. Who wouldn't want to see Taylor go for two? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't want to watch that? She was another underdog character that was ostracized and ridiculed and treated pretty rough in the house. So who wouldn't want to see another, an underdog come
yeah.
back in there? Because how would you be treated knowing that you were an underdog on another season? How are you going to react to being a top dog in this season? How do you fight differently? It's the difference between ground and pound and throwing punches and kicks in the arena. It's different. It's a different game, and I would want to watch that. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I think they like you mentioned different competitions. Bring back those eating competitions, right?
yeah,
Those are balanced
yeah.
around.
Bring back hide and go veto. Bring back food challenges.
Yeah,
That's
Bring
right.
back
Bring back the food
food
challenges. Air them
challenges.
on Sunday. I
And
want to
this
see
is
who's a
this is
have-not.
unpopular, but I don't. Yeah, they don't show the have-nots anymore. I don't need to see BB comics every single year. Like there's
yeah,
some things that can float in and out. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we need to have the same competition. The
right.
competition I hate every year to watch, and I would kill like hate doing it.
I know
And
he's
I'm
gonna
sure we're
say.
gonna get it. Is the tiny Clippers one that drives me? That's horrible to watch on TV. I can only imagine if we're doing it, how awful that is.
Yeah, I won that one.
I know. That was
that was
yours.
that was nerve wracking.
That's a really rough.
Very. That was definitely pressure packed. But yeah, I want to see. I like those, but that's because everyone has a chance. Everyone has an opportunity to stack the cans or not stack the
Sure.
cans. And so that's the thing, or would you shave your head to win veto? Yeah, shit like that. Like I'd shave my whole body if you made me do that. I don't care if I get to stick around for another, making it all the way to jury. Pressure cooker. Who wants it? Who wants it the
Who
most?
wants it the most?
Bringing back, wrangling pigs. It's just hilarious. Those competitions that everyone's got a shot
Yeah.
at. And if you're as good a player as you say that you are, and you've been invited to be on this all-star cast, I implore you to study.
Yeah.
You need to know these competitions from seasons past because that's exactly what's going to come up. Do you have a strategy for the tiles competition? For spelling out a word? Do you have an understanding of how you're going to go to each section of the backyard and find specific letters, RSTLNE, Wheel of Fortune style? Are you going to get the bulk of your letters now? Are you going to get big letters or steal a Z or something? Like, what is, you got to create your strategies going into these games. So, anybody that's going to be asked and tapped on the shoulder to go into All Stars, I hope you got your notepad out. Just talking about fan interaction and the coolest places to get stuff. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I do over the edge. There's going to be a
Right.
big, all of us
And
are, a lot of people are going to be down in Orlando and, like second week Christmas or second week of December. And, meeting fans like that is incredible. Of course, I did a reality cruise with Rachel, with Janelle and Kaser and a lot of the host of season 6. And I just fell in love with those people and they've become friends for life. So taking those opportunities. I mean, Jag has a big cruise coming up, and Janelle's got another one coming up, and there's all of these cool cruises. There's stuff that are coming up that are an opportunity to go on vacation with your favorite, Big Brother players. I absolutely recommend doing that because it's worth it. I had an absolute blast. I would take that over anything, but to make it a little bit easier on people, and this is something that I've seen over the landscape, I had to take basically a year off of social media. I would post here and there, but I absolutely wasn't engaging, and I have gotten back on the ride this year, and I will absolutely engage with every fan that I see talking about Big Brother. If they're on live and they're watching the lives and they're talking to their friends about that, jump in there. If you're a fan, make your opinion known. Talk to people. Man, this is a humongous community. Though we might be divisive on certain characters or different aspects of the game, we are one big, huge dysfunctional family. And I love just walking into someone's live, dropping them a bunch of roses and saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I absolutely love that you're carrying the torch for Big Brother, making my favorite TV show of all time bigger and bigger every day." So, just engage. The answers are out there. Just open your phone and go look for people like you that love this thing that we love.
Looks like we may have to be in Florida in December, Nick.
I
We
Hopefully,
recommend
know, we
it.
know. Well, we've been told to go down there a few times. Adam
uh,
Larson from the Challenge. I mean, we pretty much interviewed over half the people who are going to be down there. So
Yo,
I
it's gonna be
think
good.
they
I
should.
can't wait. I'm a fan of this. Like I'm going and I'm supposed to stand and raise money for the Gary Sinise Foundation, and I'm supposed to be doing all these cool things. But I'm excited to meet people that I've been watching on TV, and hopefully they have the same sentiment. Not just to meet me, but to just you
Yeah.
know just
Shout
meet
out to
everyone. I can't wait to
Omar.
be in
He throws a great event.
that energy when it's a bunch of reality stars together. There can be some egos and some interesting personalities, and some people don't like this one, and you better not go talk to that one because they're canceled or whatever. But it's really cool because we all feel so much more at home with each other. We feel comfortable because everyone else is on the outside looking in, and we're on the inside in our little bubble, and we're used to being just stared at, gawked at, and told, talked about. But when we're in our little circles together, it's comfortable. It's like a family setting, and I love that feeling. And if you're in the reality world and you are a reality star, and you haven't gone to something like Over the Edge or a cruise or something like that, do it, man, because you're gonna get more out of it than what you're giving, honestly.
looks like we got to try to find a way to link up with Cam in person. Nick,
That'd be cool. First round's on me.
there you go. Thank you. Cam, last question from me, and then we'll let you go. You gave
Hit
us
it.
a lot of really, really good time, and we're
Oh,
certainly
thank
appreciative
you. I've
of
enjoyed
that.
it.
Uh, if given the opportunity, right, you got two options.
Okay.
Either you're going back into the Big Brother house in some capacity, or you're going to space, and you had to choose one or the other. Which one would it be?
I ain't got shit in space. I'm going back in the house.
All right, there you go.
Space sounds fun, but what am I gonna do
The
out
space
there?
cowboy. So,
Nobody likes floaters in Big Brother, and that's all you would do in
oh, in
space.
space. So, Cam, in your life, in your career, or in your Big Brother life, what has been your right moment? What I mean by that, it's a time or place you want to pursue something. You ask somebody for advice. They said, Cam, sounds like a bad idea. Don't pursue that. It's not going to work out for you. And then you said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
So I had a lot of support. I mean, I all of my friends, I told them about my auditioning journeys and all the times that I had auditioned for my favorite TV show, and they were all very extremely supportive. They're like, "Dude, you would be great on that show. I like the show, and I know that you'd be good on it." There wasn't really anybody that was like, "You can't do this. You shouldn't do this," or I don't support you doing this." Not one time. But also, in the defense of the people that probably were the naysayers, I didn't tell anyone. When I finally got my audition and got my call back, and I felt like I was actually in traction and actually going to make it, I didn't tell a soul. I love working in silence. I don't like to people to stare at me aiming towards something. I like when I get there, I'm gonna look back at you and be like, dude, I couldn't even tell you because I didn't even believe it myself. So my aha moment was definitely when I got the final call and they were like, we're gonna come out to the house and we're going to film you, for a possible intro, just kind of come out to the house and do some stuff and just kind of get to know you. And I was like, dude, we're shooting in 2 weeks. Stop lying to me. I got to go to sequester sometime soon. So the super fan kicked in me, and my aha moment was when they called and told me, hey, we're going to come to the house at such and such time. And I said, that is my intro video. I'm on it. I still didn't pick up the phone and call anybody. I was like, not doing it. They're just gonna see me on TV. That's it. That's all I want them to know. So it worked out because I'm pretty sure that people were like, "Where is he?" After 2 weeks of not saying anything to him. Probably was a big deal.
They almost have thought you disappeared sooner, but it ended up working out in your favor. Once again,
Yeah.
for season 25, you're America's favorite player, one of the better competition players in more recent seasons. And Cam, this has been undeniably a really great instructional, right? Big Brother 101 episode about the ins and the outs of what goes in, watching from a superfan's perspective, wanting to apply to the show, the sacrifices that you have to make to be on the show, what's happening on the show, breaking down what's going on moving forward. So we really thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. What we do here is we always give our guests the last word. So if there's anything else you would personally like to share or promote for yourself or talk about as it relates to the game, by all means, go ahead. We thank you for your time once again. And where can we find you?
Oh, appreciate that, man. This has been a ride. And I really thank you for asking me to do this. I love these. Last word that I would probably say is don't fall out of love with Big Brother just because it's not going our way. All right. You got to stick in there. If you're a real fan, like I know that I am, I know that you have it in your heart right now that some of these things you don't agree with, but stick in there. I mean, it's either going to get better or we're going to have it as a memory. So you're going to look back on this time and you're going to wish that you treated it differently. So go in and be optimistic and fun about our favorite TV show. And to the fans, I just want to say thank you and please don't ever be a stranger. Please stop me, talk to me, message me, anything you want because I too am a fan. It's not just I know that you want to talk to me, but I want to talk Big Brother with you. I love this show. I love everything about it, and I'm just overly blessed. Like I can't tell you enough what this ride and what this journey has done for me in my life personally, ups and downs, crazy stuff, awesome stuff. And I just wouldn't trade it for anything. And I'm so appreciative and thankful for guys like you for having a platform like this to talk about this thing that we love and to keep it on the forefront of people's minds on how much we love this thing. So thank you so much for that. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me even on Facebook. So yeah, just Google it up and find me. And I really appreciate the love and support, even the haters. Hopefully I'm as Don Quixote would say, I'm on a mission to civilize, and I'm hoping that every single person that had naysays about me, I hope that we can embrace one another and you can find common ground that we love this thing together. I'm a true fan, and I hope that you guys always will be too.
All right, Cam, we thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And Joe, I think Cam needs to come to the Big Brother 28, as long as it's not on the show, premiere party next year in New York
Ooh.
City because we're missing out. We get there,
Yeah,
we're there every year.
absolutely.
We haven't seen Cam yet. He hasn't come up to the Big Apple for that. It's a lot of
Never
stuff to
been there,
prepare.
so that would be absolutely amazing. We might
Absolutely.
need to
That'll
go ahead and
happen.
plan that up.
All right, so Cam, thanks for your time. That's gonna do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our very special guest, Cam, my co-host Joe, I'm Nick, and this has been You Know I'm Right.